Nice. Looking good.
Man. That's all I can do these days, man, watching the sidelines.
Yeah. Let me show you a picture that I got. Let me see if I can bring that up. This is right outside my district window. I showed it to Rick earlier today. You're going to love it. Some pretty solid artwork going on here.
Oh, nice. Nice.
Dude, that's my office right there.
Oh, my gosh. That is very good.
Yeah.
I like it.
Appreciate you doing this, by the way. I know you're busy.
Hey, thank you guys. I think this is awesome.
I was just talking to Rick. I know a little bit about you just from following, listening to some of the podcasts you've been on. Love your podcast, by the way. One of the big things that we like is not all gunslinging, and I know we talked about that before. We want to talk to people who are interesting, and a lot of the stuff that we talk about on this podcast is for law enforcement and military guys looking to start a business or do something different, and I know you got a lot of irons in the fire right now, but I was letting him know about your some of your military, your contracting, and then your law enforcement stuff. So
yeah, no, thank you, man. I'm excited, guys. I appreciate it. I dig what you guys are doing as well.
Like the fact that you're shredding on the guitar every now and then too. I like the Friday night riffs. I love that.
Oh yeah, man. I'm trying. It's been a fun journey for sure, but better late than never. I wish I had picked it up younger, but in a way, I'm glad I didn't because it's addicting. I probably wouldn't have done anything else in my life, but sit at home and who knows?
Yeah.
But, hey, Clark, you can do like Mark did. So the beginning riff of ours, that's Mark's handiwork.
Yeah, that's what he was saying. That's awesome, man.
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah.
So,
Very cool.
You could do the same thing. Have your own intro music.
I don't know if I'm brave enough for that yet, but we'll get there.
Come on, man.
I bet you people will love it. I just did mine with GarageBand. That's all I do mine with.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't messed with GarageBand yet, but
it's not bad. So.
That's awesome, man. That's what I'm trying to do now is kind of play with some type of play with music, or I'm familiar enough. I'm about 2.5 years in, so I'm familiar enough. I need to start playing with music to actually get rhythm, and all that timing is amazing. Every time I try to play, it's like you miss one note, you're done. It's like, oh, where am I at now? I don't know.
No, I just say just pick something up and run with it. You know what I'm saying? It's one of those.
Or just act like it's the coolest note that ever happened. You know what I'm saying? You just got to roll with it and just move past it. You know what I mean?
That's right. God's gift to rock and roll. Just keep going.
Yeah. We're recording. I hope you hadn't. We always like to, Rick and I were talking about it, and we had some really good conversations that we'd missed, and then we had a really good conversation that we captured by just smashing the record button.
Oh,
and
nice.
Your audio sounds really good, and I hear Rick, so we went ahead and started recording.
Cool.
So do you mind just giving us a little rundown and the folks listening about yourself, as much as we're not going to get into anything that you'd rather not talk about, but kind of give us a rundown where you grew up and kind of how you ended up where you're at? Yeah,
for sure. I grew up in Colorado Springs, Colorado, a little mountain town just outside of it called Cascade. And it was a fun childhood. I mean, I'm pretty much a product of the 80s, born in the 70s, but really a kid in the 80s. So just loved watching movies and, from Goonies to Arnold Schwarzenegger, all that stuff. And so growing up in the woods, I would just run around and play army guy with my BB gun and my Australian Shepherd. We would conquer the world. And so it was a very fun childhood, a little bit isolated in that there were no kids as neighbors. So I had to use a lot of my imagination and whatnot. But the inner class clown was born because when I was in school, it was showtime. I just wanted to entertain people and be goofy and happy. And so I think that's why I'm still the goofball that I am today, because when I'm around people, I get all excited. But it was a good childhood, lots of sports. I started out with soccer and little things like that, wrestled a little bit. But junior high age, got super into hockey.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So that was a big part of kind of my formative years as far as team sports, team player, work ethic. To get ice time, I'd have to get up at 3:30 in the morning. So that was a good lesson I was learning for later in life. And also being a contact sport gave me a lot of confidence. I'm a big believer in getting kids involved with contact type sports or combative sports because it gives them self-confidence and it lets them know that don't be scared of things. Like, most likely you're going to be okay unless some freak accident happens. So I'm glad I had exposure to that. Looking back on things, that was a very important part of who I eventually became, is that really just growing up as a defenseman, getting crushed,
right,
getting my ass beat on the rink, kind of prepared me for some later stompings in life. So I'm very grateful for my stint in hockey. Did some college, finished my junior year, but I had 2 kids in tow at that point, so I decided to join the service. But I had a paycheck, I had insurance, everybody was taken care of. I caught the bug in high school watching the Gulf War kick off, so I knew I wanted to serve outside of being a fan of military movies. Once the Gulf War kicked off, I was like, oh yeah, I got to do something in this.
What year was that when you actually went in?
I enlisted in the Navy in 95.
Okay.
So that was 95, and then I got out of the service. I left active duty in 2003 and started contracting. Back up a little bit, in the Navy, I spent a year and a half, almost 2 years in the regular Navy on the Shiloh, and that was an interesting experience. I was undesignated, so I didn't have a job, and they found work for me. I painted the USS Shiloh gray.
Nice.
It was I always refer to it as a floating prison. It was a very weird experience just to be out at sea and you're like the lowest dude on the ship.
Oh, man.
Very, very humbling. But, I made it through. We did a deployment to the Persian Gulf, and I worked my way up into some different things on board the ship and made it the best I could, making lemonade out of lemons, I guess.
Right.
And I was just hoping for my shot at BUD/S, which I got, luckily. And had a great time in BUD/S, a lot of good memories, met a lot of good people. After graduating from BUD/S, went to Team 5. After Team 5, I did a stint in Colorado with a reserve SF unit, and then contracting called. And at that point, it was a simple math problem. Contracting was paying very well. Unfortunately, I think it hurt the community for a while because especially Special Operations lost their core group of dudes, and so they were left with either new guys or old timers because all the middle core, the worker bees, left to go chase paychecks, and understandably so. I mean, end of the day, you can put more food on your table and take care of you and yours. So the military eventually corrected that with better re-enlistment bonuses, and the ranks got paid a little better. So it's, looking back on it, I'm still kind of 50-50 with that decision. I wish I could have stayed in the fight with my bros, but $2,000 and $15,000, that's just too far apart to not make those choices. And I'm glad I did. And I met a lot of great people in the contracting world. I've talked about this before on some other podcasts. When you're in a unit, you're kind of stuck in that culture. You're stuck with those tactics and that mentality. But in contracting, all of a sudden my teammates were Delta dudes, SF dudes, recon dudes. So now I had access to their playbooks, how they wear their gear and their different tactics and styles. And so I think my learning curve just skyrocketed, and very grateful for those opportunities. I would not have normally broke bread with those guys had I not made that move. So I do regret leaving the teams, but every stage of my life, I've just really surrounded myself, luckily, with good people. Not that I'm super awesome at choices by any means. I just have that Forrest Gump luck. Wherever I end up, I just happen to have a good group of dudes kind of around me making things happen. So, overall, I deployed from 96 to 07, realizing in 07 that my kids were now teenagers. They went from toddlers to teenagers. I thought, okay, I got to get back stateside and figure something out. And at that time, contracting had started to welcome in law enforcement. Mostly SWAT cops from big cities, but I started chatting with some of those cats. And again, I loved their tactics, their way of thinking, completely different mindset, completely different angle on things, way more academic. than what we were doing. The way they understand things is way more academic, which I now understand being former law enforcement. There's a lot of things you have to assess very quickly that you don't necessarily have to do overseas. So curious as to what I was going to do when I came back stateside. I ended up falling into law enforcement with Phoenix PD. So that's kind of a long synopsis, but basically that was kind of my journey from college to the military to contracting into law enforcement. And when I left law enforcement, I was doing some firearms training, different locations for a few years. And now I ended up as a safety dude for a construction company. Who would have thought? Never done anything safe in my life, but now I'm the safety dude. So what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Hey, Clark, let me tell you one thing, bud. So you're kind of on the fence there, 50-50 reference to family. Here's what I'm going to tell you. You made the right choice because I did not. So for my 29 years in, I sacrificed the family. I didn't, yes, I watched my kids grow up from afar, if you want to say.
Sure.
So I remember we had to do some healing with my daughter on her 18th birthday because she was like, Dad, you've missed 9 of my birthdays. So when your 18-year-old daughter saying that, it's leaving some type of impression. So I would just tell you, for me to you, number one, thank you for your service, both, military, law enforcement.
Absolutely.
And then second.
Thank you guys as well. Thank you.
Thank you, bud.
Yeah, buddy. But second, you made the right choice because that is a scar I have to deal with. Granted, we've healed some things with my family, but I did not put them first. And I've told them, both to their face, I've said in numerous different public forums, and I just think it's good that we can chat like this. And guys just have to make that choice. I opted not to. You opted to. I know you said you're on the fence, but I'm going to tell you, you made the right choice. So
I appreciate that. No, I appreciate that because it's tough. I mean, yeah, absolutely. I agree with you, and I appreciate your kind words. It's family first, and obviously the older you get, the more you see that. When you're young and you're running and gunning, it's just pounded into you that, the unit and the mission and the boys and all this stuff's in your head. And it really is kind of a selfish path, even preparing for special operations, how much you have to invest in yourself with working out and the mindset and all the stuff that goes with it. It's almost like trying to get into the NFL. You have to be so self-absorbed that your family's really just kind of riding in the back seat, and either they hang on or they don't. So I'm glad that I derailed myself from that somewhat early on.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I definitely understand what you're saying, man.
Well, good for you, buddy.
Yeah, thank you.
So I know you have a pretty good following on social media. I remember seeing some of your firearm stuff in there. As a matter of fact, I saw you doing challenges from other instructors. They would do these really cool fast drills.
Yeah.
The one from Instructor Zero, which was like one in front, 190 degrees right, then 180 the other side, and you did it like in a 1.25 seconds, and I think you beat him by 100th of a second or something. So
yeah,
was it
fun,
was it business driven, or was it something just for fun, and then you kind of parlayed it? Because I know right now you still have your day job, like you said, but is there anything else you got going on that you were doing that social media stuff for, or is it just for fun?
Yeah, it started out when I left Phoenix. I moved to Austin, Texas to help Wes out with Rogue American Apparel. And he, over the phone, actually helped me set up my Instagram account because in law enforcement, it was frowned upon to have social media because a lot of guys were getting in trouble with it. Stupid stuff, call in sick, and then you're at Disneyland posting pictures, dumb stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I got to a plainclothes squad, and absolutely you couldn't have any social media because obviously do their homework and figure out who you are or whatever. So I wasn't savvy to it anyway at that point because I'd spent so much time overseas. So I never had it when I was in the military just because it didn't really exist too much back then. And then in law enforcement, it was just frowned upon. And then when I got to the different units I got to, for sure, it was like, no, we're not doing this. So Wes said, listen, for small business, especially an apparel company, it's free advertising, it's free marketing, it's a little bit of character building for companies. It's kind of like a rock band. Well, someone might like Gene Simmons, but someone might like Ace Frehley, or, kind of build these different characters within the company. So that's how it started. And then it just kind of just took off on its own. And that I don't know. I got this Pauly Shore vibe or something. I don't know. I just kind of post weird stuff and people started following me, and half of it I have to delete because it's embarrassing, but I went with it. But then as it gained momentum, like when I was working at Black Ranch for a while, I would get a lot of crossover from my personal account to that account, and we would grow that up. And so I saw the benefit of it, but I didn't want my personal account to get too sucked into any one company. I didn't want it to become an infomercial. You'll see a lot of these dudes every 5 seconds, they're sponsored by Gatorade or, it just,
right.
I kind of started to clean that up a bit and try to compartmentalize it a little bit more. So it's really been just kind of for fun since the Rogue American Apparel days. And the more I began to navigate it and play with it, it just, I really tried to add humor to everything I did, even the firearm stuff. We would do these different challenges and have fun, and kind of the anti-cool guy stuff.
Yeah.
I tried to take that approach to it. So it took a life of its own. So now I'm just running around the construction site freaking out my general manager. He calls me TikTok. You filming more videos, TikTok? And I'm like, oh, sorry, I put my phone away.
Yeah.
So, Clark, how long have you had your social media for?
2016. 2016,
okay.
Yeah.
So about 4 years, and I mean, to sit there at, what are you, like 84,000 or something like that? I mean, that's
something like that. Yeah,
that's smoking. That's smoking, buddy.
Yeah, and I don't play with. I've had buddies that try to figure out algorithms or certain times of day. If I just post something, you know what I mean. There's no rhyme or reason to it. I know I'm not a big hashtagger.
Yeah.
I figure if you just throw out something that's funny or interesting or whatever it is, people will, like, if you build it, they will come. So that's kind of what's happening.
Well, the hashtags don't seem to work anymore anyway, for whatever reason. So they're, and I know trying to figure out that whole algorithm thing, they did something in there because there for a while I could see some posts would get phenomenal reach, and it was all based off of hashtags. Now kind of those similar type posts don't get squat. So like you said, the hashtags, I still stick them on there in hopes that maybe I'll catch the algorithm shift one day, but it's the problem is it's also they can control it. So I got a lot of gun stuff on there where you've got I think that the key thing is you've got a good mixed bag, right? You got some comedy in there, you've got your music stuff in there. I think you touch on your podcast a little bit, so it's well diversified where I don't think they're exactly targeting you and how much reach you're going to get. So it's like, all right, hey, let the funny guy put more funny stuff up there, and it's all good. So I don't know.
Exactly. Yeah, I discovered that, early on because I started to notice that when I was at Black G Ranch and it was getting gun heavy. I noticed the same sort of thing. You hear these like shadow bands and things, and so that's when I said, well, let's mix it in with some physical fitness and some comedy, and you know what I mean. So for the most part, my page has been. I think I've only had one post ever removed that I can remember. So I've tried to keep it where it's somewhere in the middle and somewhere playful. Because a lot of my buddies, especially with firearms, they either put them in the penalty box or whatever Instagram will do to people. And I'm sure you guys have experienced that. It's super unfortunate.
Well, at least for me, and Mark, I'll let you hit on this one, but I try to do a couple things, right? So Monday's like my comedy one. So I'll find some funny video throughout the week, kind of save it, stick it out there to give people, hey, here's your money, your Monday chuckle, and people love that. My Friday is always dedicated to the military, so for Red Friday, Remember Everyone Deployed, something military driven. And then it doesn't help when you're running, a dog's one as well. So I've got my retired work dog. I've got his page because everyone said get him a page as well, And then, of course, we've got the podcast one. It's just like, it's like just trying to put content out there and try to get the reach. So you would think the dog would be safe, right? So everyone loves dogs.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think where he's interwove with me, I think he's got a quasi, shadow band on him as well. So.
Oh, that's horrible. I mean, because he's a working dog, they see that as, you know what I mean? It's.
Well,
who knows?
I
don't
law
know.
Enforcement, they have that stigma with it,
Well, they do, but I think we're also interweaved, so it's.
Oh, sure.
I'm on his page. He's on my page. You can see the direct link because it's like, hey, I'm the handler for War Dog Duco. War HOGG Tactical's my handler, So I think that's where the weave goes back and forth, and I'm sure they go. Although I didn't have any gun stuff there for a while. I took the, hey, I'm going to do no guns. And then finally I'm like, screw it. Because he's around guns. We do stuff with guns. And just slap it up there. So
Rick goes to an event and everybody's like, "Hey man, where's Duco? You bringing Duco?"
It's like I'm here to teach you shooting, man.
Yeah.
You know, it's like,
Hey man, where's the dog? Yeah.
That's awesome. Oh, good.
So I'm going to try to throw some handiwork that you have on here. There's last few days you had a couple of gems, some of the best ones I've seen you do in a while. So let me see. Rick and we're going to bring up the Friday drive home. Rick.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Oh yeah. I like the toothpick in your mouth.
Yeah, you know.
Hang on.
All right.
All right. You're a little behind.
You got the helmet hair going. Oh man! And then you got the Run DMC busting in there. I love it.
Yeah, you got to, man.
Oh man, love that. And here's another one. Let me see if I can bring this one up. This is a throwback to the '80s.
Oh yeah, the Knight Rider.
Oh man, David Hasselhoff was huge.
Oh yeah,
big.
Absolutely.
You ready, buddy?
Yeah, buddy.
All right, let's let it rip.
Kid, this is safety duty. Meet me on the other side of the tube. Over.
I love that. And then the low angle stuff you got going on. You put some thought into that.
I did. I had to wait till my general foreman was at lunch.
Right. It's a good. Does he? Now he don't have an IG page, does he?
No, he doesn't. But the field engineer spies on me and.
Oh man. Yeah, I love this.
Yeah, right. Like the opening scene.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
When they're out at the salt flats and he's driving, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. It takes me right back. I loved it. That is great. That is awesome. Well, you certainly got a gift, my friend, and the following and the numbers that you get and all the interest that you generate is the proof of it. So,
I appreciate it. I just try to have a good time.
Well, everybody can tell it, and I'm sure that's a lot of the draw. But, you know, with all the stuff you had going on, and you get a lot of things out there. I remember listening to your first podcast, and you felt like, hey, man, there's some things that I want to talk about. It's my show. I can do it the way I want. What was the drive for you? What was the reason why you pointed towards having your own podcast? Was it because everybody else was doing it, or?
No, I think it actually probably started back in the Howard Stern days, if that sounds kind of silly. I thought, what a cool job to just sit there and goof around on the radio like that. That's a dream job. Just to throw, pieces of bologna at strippers' butts and do whatever he wants. You know what I mean? I just thought, wow. I used to listen to him every day on the way to work when I was in the Navy, and I just thought, this is amazing. What a cool job. But obviously it's super difficult to be a real famous shock jock or whatever. But then this podcasting thing started kicking up, and a lot of my buddies were doing it. Mike Ritland has a Mic Drop. And
right.
A couple other podcasts I've been on, but they're pretty tech savvy. They got cameras and an assistant dude and all this. And I thought, so I started listening to Joe Rogan. He's got super interesting guests. But then I heard Bill Burr on his podcast, and he mentioned that he had his own podcast. So I tuned into his, and that's what inspired me for my format. All Bill Burr does is talk shit for 30 minutes, and he's out of your hair.
Right.
He does it, I think, twice a week. But I thought, that's brilliant. No editing, nothing. I just got to call up a buddy and ask what equipment I need, what software I need. I'm sure I could do just the Bill Burr format. Hop on there once a week, maybe talk about current events, answer some emails. And so I thought, okay, that's a format I can wrap my brain around. So that's what kind of inspired me to do it. And the virus kicked off, and I thought, maybe now's not the time. People are going to be freaked out and struggling. And I thought, well, fuck it, I'm ready. I invested the money and the gear and everything's ready to go. I'm just going to launch it out there. And it actually ended up being great timing. I've had a lot of people message me and say, you know what, your podcast is just fun to listen to. It's short and sweet. And you're always talking about, silly shit you did or whatever. A lot of positive feedback from it. So I think that it was actually good timing that everyone's kind of freaked out, because it's a little bit of a breath of fresh air. And it's not, a lot of my friends kind of have a similar format, as far as their podcasts go and the guests they have on. And I thought, I'm just going to keep it simple like Bill Burr. I'm just going to kind of speak my mind and goof around and just leave it at that. So that's kind of where it started and where it ends up. I'm still very new to the game, but it's fun. I tell you what, it's kind of intimidating to be in the dude room by yourself, and there's this microphone, and you hit the record button, and I'm like,
right.
What do you say? You know, I really would like you guys, I need someone that I can bounce off of, or I get energy from people, but when I'm by myself, I'm like, what to say? But I get this nervous, excited energy that just, I had one guy message me, goes, dude, what were you on the 4th of July podcast? What were you on? I'm like, nothing. Did I sound like I was on something? The 4th of July, I'm fucking happy, and I just get this energy from it. So it's just kind of become this silly thing that I do, but I really enjoy it. I look forward to it all week. I'm thinking of topics. I'm thinking of, and I take little notes. I type them right into my phone. It's because as soon as you think them, you're going to forget them.
Right.
I'm sure it's same for you guys.
Oh, absolutely.
If you think of something, it just disappeared. So it just came about out of curiosity and watching several of my buddies do it, and then exploring other podcasts. I just stumbled upon Joe Rogan's and thought, wow, that's really cool.
Yeah, he's got a lot of good, high-powered, a lot of influencers, a lot of comedians, and some serious stuff. He tackles a lot of issues of the day, and he does a really nice job. However, I mean, I don't think, even though as good as he is, and he is the podcast king, I've never listened to a whole 3-hour podcast from Joe Rogan. No,
for sure.
No matter how.
So long.
That's a long time. So I think your formula is good. When Rick and I started this, and Rick can jump on this and tell me his thoughts, but I think the pandemic was a perfect time to throw these out there. You got a captive audience. They're looking for content. There's absolutely zero new content, including movies or sports. So I think it was a good time for us. We thought, hey, man, let's go ahead and throw a podcast together, and it's been good for us, too. I think so, too, Rick.
Yeah, it was really you, Mark. So Mark was the one, he's like, hey, man, what do you think about a podcast? I'm like, okay, sure. What do I know? Because it's halfway intimidating when you look at it. But sure. Mark did the research, found out about Anchor. And really, we started out, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Mark, I think we just did an Anchor recording phone call. I mean, when you kind of look at where we started, we're, 14 episodes in, we're to the video, we got the mics now. I mean, it's been a gradual growing process. And I think, kind of you hit on a key point, Clark, having the co-host, it makes it nice because if we can't get a guest or something falls through, hey, man, we can just kind of have a quick BS session. Plus, too, I mean, we've known each other, 30-plus years.
Yep.
What a better way for two buddies just to kind of, we're geographically separated, where we live. But, hey, man, we at least know at least once a week, hey, man, I'm going to see your mug, get on the horn. We'll BS for a couple, record a show, and slap it out there, It's like Mark came up with the idea for the last one for Independence Day. It's me and him chatting. And he starts bringing up the Nathan's hot dog eating contest video. And we're like commenting on this. He's like, look at these guys. They are true athletes. I mean, look at this guy's face. He is in pure pain. Hell yeah, he just sucked down 10 hot dogs in a minute. I'd be dying. So
he's unbelievable, that Joey Chestnut, man. I can't see
dude.
He's unbelievable.
But, I think you hit a key point is throwing, you can hit on some topics that's on point, but throwing that comedy in there, getting people to laugh, to go, hey, man, because there's too many people going, man, life sucks. I'm in the dumps. I live the worst life ever. No way, dude. Make the best of it, And if I can give somebody a chuckle from Joey Chestnut sucking down 10 hot dogs.
In 5 seconds, yeah.
Yeah, just like. And here's me and Mark trying to figure out, what is he doing with those buns, man? Sticking them in the water and just.
I've noticed, they dunk it. Yeah.
They
crush it,
man. So I know, Clark, on a lot of your, and we have a lot of the same kind of ideas about having seen places that are nowhere near the comfort and awesomeness that America is. And I know you say, hey, it's Friday in America. And I remember you playing the James Brown Living in America that one time in your truck. And I think it's important for, a lot of people want to hear that stuff, and it's tough with the law enforcement side. I know Rick's got ties to law enforcement, and you, of course, and I have family members that's still doing it and new to it, and it's rough right now, right? And I know you have a very good positive message out there for all those folks who are in those jobs, or the people that want to support and they're getting the backlash for it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really sad to see what, our brothers and sisters in blue are going through. I mean, it was already tough enough, and now I can't even imagine. Of course, I'm still in touch with a lot of buddies that are still on the job, and the biggest thing I want them to know is that I still love them and support them, and lots of people do. And it's just a shame that they're just getting shit on right now.
Yeah.
It just blows me away what I'm seeing on TV and the lack of support from mayors and governors. And it's just, it's mind blowing. And especially when you've seen the job from the inside and then you see the narrative being pushed about it, that, all these cops are out there hunting people and violating civil rights. And you just know in your heart of hearts it's the exact opposite of that. And you've seen the struggles your brothers have been through or you've been through, and the tough shifts and the tough calls, and sometimes those problems come home and then your home problems come to it's just such a dynamic world at times. And just to see that they're already dealing with all that, and then, certain communities are just crapping on them with the help of the news media. And it really breaks my heart, because I know what those guys and gals are thinking. I know what they're going through. And so I've been pretty vocal without going overboard about it. I've been pretty vocal about, my support from them, and tried to throw out some videos and talk about it in my podcast a little bit, to put things back in perspective, because I don't think a lot of people are, well, obviously they're not getting the truth, depending on what news outlet they watch.
No, not at all.
They're being spoon-fed this very strange narrative that all of a sudden the cops are the bad guys and they're out there to hurt people, which just, as you guys know, it's 100% not a part of the mission statement.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's absolutely devastating to see it. So I've done my part. That's why I was super stoked that Mitch made this shirt. That was so awesome.
Yeah,
I was like, I'm buying one right away. I snatched it up like that. And I love his support too. He's not afraid to stand up, and all of us that are kind of in that same, family there on Instagram, we're all supporting each other, and that's at least I can do. I wish I could do more. Yeah, for sure.
Rick made a real good point that the community that you just spoke of is not as big as initially thought. There's not a ton of, I guess you call them influences or small businesses that are out there helping train folks and selling swag in support of these guys. I mean, we've been doing this for just about the same amount of time as you have, and that community is a lot smaller than I thought.
That's why I just try to do my part, and just I wish if I wasn't working 6 days a week, I would just volunteer my time to teach anything I know, maybe do some handgun work with patrol officers or just anything free of charge would be great. Just anything I could contribute. That's kind of how I caught the training bug, was because of my military background. When the annual qual came up, my phone was blowing up for people that were nervous about not passing the qual. And so I would meet them at the academy, and really you adjust 2 or 3 things and they're killing it.
Yeah.
Because obviously the academy for us, it was just 2 weeks of handgun and that was it. Some of them have never shot a handgun in their life, and it's a very cookie cutter type course, not very user friendly, because I think it was 50 of us they were pushing through, and we were one of 7 classes. So it was just this factory of spitting dudes out. So I felt bad for them, because obviously I had a very handcrafted experience as far as my firearms training, and years and hundreds of thousands of rounds, as opposed to just here's a Glock, here's 2 weeks and some ammo. So that's how I caught the training bug, is I realized I call it rehab shooting. I love to just watch somebody shoot and just tweak a couple things, and next thing you know, they're doing amazing, and watch those light bulb moments and their confidence skyrocket. So that when I decided to leave the department, I said, I really want to get into the training side of things. A little bit nervous training with civilians at first, but that ended up being great. Got to continue to work with some law enforcement, and then I would go out to Tier 1 group out near Memphis and train some active duty bubbas, and that was amazing. So I really enjoyed all that, and I wish I could still be a part of it, but for me, it wasn't stable enough. I kept trying to travel, and when times were good, they were good, but there might be several weeks where it was lean, and it's tough to keep that steady paycheck. So a buddy hit me up with this gig, and I'm like, kind of what we were talking about earlier, I'm trying to think what's best for the family, not necessarily what I want to do. And so I thought, all right, let me go check out the safety dude stuff. But at some point, I'm hoping to have enough time, if I can move back to Phoenix or somewhere where I can actually shoot, It's a little tough being stuck in California, but I would like to dedicate some time to work and train with people again.
Clark, where are you at in California?
Sacramento.
Okay. So I'll be down in San Diego at the end of the month. There's an invite if you want to come down. I'll be bringing in some pistols if you need one. So if you don't have any California compliant,
No, nothing in here is California compliant. That's why it's
I didn't even see what's behind you. My vision's not that good,
My guitar case. That's where I keep my guitar.
Right.
Exactly. For all your important documents,
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, it's a shame. I wish I could be more involved. I mean, I don't have time because I'm working 60s, doing other stuff, but I really do want to just volunteer my time and help out any way I can, and just trying to help people that are still working the streets. And it really breaks my heart what cops are going through right now, and just the backlash that they're getting. I do believe it's still a small portion of the society that's shitting on them. It's just they're the loudest and they hog the most news time. I do believe that most Americans, do support law enforcement, but man, you wouldn't know it watching the news.
No.
Horrible.
And, the sad thing is, you get, a couple bad eggs in the basket, and then everyone goes, hey, the basket's bad. All right, well, we could turn around with your politicians. You got plenty of, bad politicians. Nobody's saying abolish the government.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, these are the guys that, on one hand, people are going, oh, worst thing ever. But what are they calling when they need trouble? 911. And then they're sitting there complaining when no one shows up in time. So it's like, come on, man. I got it. You've got some bad eggs. That's not them all.
Sure. Yeah, well, and there's systems in place for that. I mean, that's why you have Internal Affairs Bureau. There's ways you can square away someone that's slipping up on your own squad. You know what I mean? Just like in the military, if someone's struggling, you square them away. Or if someone's doing something that really concerns you, you go to your sergeant and you talk to him. I mean, obviously, I always had the philosophy of taking care of things at the lowest level possible, which I learned in the military. You just don't bug the colonel every time you got a shit. So if somebody on my squad was doing something I didn't like, I would address it with them. And it never went above that, but I was always prepared that if it bothered me that much, which it never really did, I was lucky to be with good guys, professionals, had good senior guys that groomed me, good sled dogs, worker bees that I worked with. So I was blessed. I heard things from other squads that were going on that I wouldn't have been okay with, just as far as work ethic and things like that. But there are systems in place. I know the general public might think by watching the news that cops can just roam around and do whatever they want. And it's very far from the truth. I mean, I wore a body camera. We were accountable for everything. I mean, and the public had cell phones, and internal affairs supervisors are out there. I mean, there's layers of scrutiny, and obviously you get lit up in court, going to testify as an officer witness in court. You get lit up by an attorney until you learn how to write better reports. There's so many sets of eyes on you that the narrative of cops are just running wild, doing whatever they want is so far from the truth. I mean, our MDTs, our laptops were GPSed, all the radio traffic's recorded, body cameras. I mean, we were held accountable for our words and actions. So I really don't get why that there's this belief otherwise, that there's no checks and balances in law enforcement.
There's tons of them. Well, not only that, nowadays the civilian review boards are there. Yeah. And a lot of times that comes out of the police department's budgets. At the same time, that money's coming straight out of the training budget for these officers, It's there's a lot of and then Rick and I have talked about it too. There's a lot of times when the officers are not helping us by doing some of the things that they do as well. So there's culpability in all these areas. But Rick, he's been doing a lot of the stuff that you do, and we try to get law enforcement training. And like you said, it doesn't take a whole lot, just that good, solid quality training. Rick just had something last week. Had was it 17 studs on the line, I guess? Yeah,
we had 17 guys down in South Carolina, free LEO class.
All you had to do awesome.
Yeah, all you had to do is bring your bullets out there, and we gave them a good, solid 11-hour, 100+ degree temperature in South Carolina training day, and these dudes loved it, man. And
good.
It just, the part that killed me though was when guys are sitting there going, and typically what I do is, like, for my regular open enrollment, I usually throw a spot to a junior law enforcement, somebody 3 years and under. So hey, try to give a junior guy. This one here was all open. It was just open to, as long as you were active, still working the streets, come on out.
Nice.
But when I got guys that have, 13, 16 years out on the street, and we're doing a simple drill of engaging a target that just has a T-shirt hanging over so you can't see the paper, like, I've never done this before in all my years of training. I'm like, guys, it costs you nothing. Bring an old T-shirt because that's reality.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And they're just mind blown. And really the part that, if guys can take things back to their departments, because these guys are taking the shirts because normally they just wind up in the trash, at least for my civilian students, or I might have one or two, take and go, oh, check out my cool Halloween costume. Yeah. But now he's like, I'm bringing this back to the training sergeant and showing him.
That's awesome.
So that we can get it implemented. I'm like, there you go, guys. That's how we do it.
Yeah, that's a huge visual. That's good for the visual, especially for guys that haven't been in a lot of gunfights or the first gunfight. There's a lot of visual cues. One of the things we did early on at Team 5 that I thought was awesome, and I've done it in my courses too, is our CQB houses back then were real primitive. They were plywood, but they had some rafters over the tops of them. And what they would do is they would have cardboard targets, and from parachute cord, there would be a balloon, hole punch through the target, and then a cami blouse button around it. And so you were shooting like uniforms, but what I like is when you did the center mass hit and popped the balloon, the target would fall. So you're getting the sensation of, the silhouette or the target dropping, as opposed to just engaging and the target still there, which obviously in a real gunfight, people don't just stand around when they're shot. Yeah. So as a young team guy, I thought, wow, that's brilliant to program the mind for that, because in a typical CQB scenario, you go in the room, you dig your corner, and you're just drilling targets, but you're not, they always taught us pop till they drop. You're not going to move on to the additional threat till that threat's completely neutralized. And so at least you get that visual of they're down. Now I can drive to the next target, as opposed to most CQB is just target, target, target. Well, how do you know that target's no longer a threat? So I like that visual of that. So kind of what you do with the T-shirts, things like that are very valuable, as opposed to how most people train, just hitting paper, hitting paper, hitting paper. Then they're thrown out to a three-dimensional battlefield where that target doesn't exist. So I'm glad that things like that they're taking back. That's awesome.
Yeah, so we'd do one thing remember the plastic Ivans we used to qualify on?
Oh, yeah.
So we would take those because they were 3D. And the beauty with those is now you could almost double stack your balloons, because we did the same thing. We would do a balloon center, for most of the targets, but then some, it would be a double balloon system where now you've got a balloon in the center, now one in the head. So the classic,
nice.
hey, I'm engaging and getting no results.
He's not nice.
You better figure out where to stick him at, So,
That's awesome. Yeah, that's good. That type of feedback is so valuable. You try to simulate as close as you can to the real thing, and that's just not a lot of people take it to that level. So that's awesome.
So what's coming up next for the podcast? What's the next big thing for that? And I know you got some swag out there now. Is that on? Is that all up and running, and you're all stocked up and ready to go?
Almost. Yeah, we got our inventory. So I got my wizard behind the curtain lives in Austin. When I was living there, I met him, and we did a couple projects together. We actually stood up that tactical ranch called Mission Critical out there south of Dallas. And he's my IT guy. So he's the one getting the website up and the store up. And I'm trying to figure out a way I can take in a call, and I want to interview him, be kind of the first over-the-phone interview I do. So that's what I'm trying to set up for the next one, so I can kind of introduce my business partner, the brains behind the operation, and then we can just kind of talk about how we met, how we kind of created this thing together, and where we're going to go from there, and the merchandise and all that. So on my end, he's got to explain a lot of IT stuff for me. I got to plug a lot of wires into different things, so it's going to be kind of terrifying. But I want my podcast to grow, because I can only rant in a microphone for so long. I want to eventually get call-in guests. I've had a lot of buddies swing through town that are interesting for a day or two, so I want to be able to set up a second mic where if someone's crashing at the pad for a night or two.
Right.
I got a guest he's in the Army now 30 years, and he started out 82nd Airborne in the Gulf War. And I was like, you were in the Gulf War? Dude, what the hell? We're like the same age. Because I went in when I was 17, and I was like, wow. So I met him when he was a first group dude, and then he's gone other places in the Army, and he's been there for a while, and he's a sergeant major now. So I thought, dude, I want you on my podcast. He goes, well, there's about 16 years that I can't talk about, but we can talk about some things. So I said, don't worry, I won't go there, but we spent some time in Thailand together, and we can talk about the first group days and things like that. And I want to hear about this Gulf War shit that I've known him for 20 years, never knew he was in the Gulf War, so I want to pick his brain about that. But guys like that spend the night at your house, I really want a setup where I can throw a second mic up and kind of do that, kind of the personal interviews in addition to having some phone interviews. So that's how I plan on at least trying to grow my podcast, as opposed to me just babbling into the microphone about, whatever.
Let the cat out the bag, Mark. Tell him he's got a couple of Gulf War vets sitting across from him, man.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
82nd Airplane Gang, man. Oh, yeah.
Oh, nice, man. Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, man.
Oh, yeah. That's cool. Well, you guys inspired me, man. I was in high school and that popped off, and I was like, man, I had like the Saddam necktie, the Saddam toilet paper. Like, I was so into the Gulf War, man. Watching that stuff on CNN 20. I don't think I slept the whole time that was going. I was so excited, man.
Yeah. Time goes by.
Cami pattern yet, by the way. Best cami pattern yet, man. The
chocolate
chippies.
Love it.
Yeah. I'm actually rocking chocolate.
What? Oh, yeah.
Bam. Nice.
Oh, yeah. I think so, too. So I know you're getting all this swag going out and you're pushing out your hats and your T-shirts and stuff. We talk a lot about business for these guys who are, coming out of law enforcement and military alike. And we've tried to pass on some of the things that helped us through because we made several mistakes and had to deal with it. What's the biggest roadblock or biggest obstacle?
I've been pretty careful navigating through the waters of different ventures I've been on. I rely on people that are more successful than me in those areas, especially starting out. So like the podcasting thing, I network to people, or even when I was getting into the firearms training thing, not afraid to ask for help or, to get information. I think a lot of guys, especially from the communities we're a part of, they're kind of like the guy that's lost and refuses to ask for directions. You can't be that guy in the business world. Ask for help, ask for directions, learn from other people's mistakes. Working at Rogue American Apparel, talking to Wes and the mistakes he made early on and get sharked by other business partners or other businesses. Don't drop your shield just because someone's a vet or a cop. They're either a good person or they're not, but a lot of people, we use that to kind of get close to you and things. And so for me, it was always learning from other people's successes and mistakes, but also being that guy that will raise his hand and have questions for those people, not trying to just figure it out on my own. I think that's where people they hit the wall very quickly, as opposed to reaching out. And most people are willing to help. Like when I wanted to start the podcast, I called up a buddy. What kind of microphone do I need? All this stuff is important. And one of the things he said is, if your podcast sounds like crap, no one's going to listen to it, no matter how interesting. You need a quality mic. You need a quality recording system. And it doesn't have to be crazy expensive, but these are the brands I like. Because I told him, I don't want to spend thousands of dollars. I'm willing to spend a couple $100 or a few $100, but I can't get crazy with it. So things like that, I've been very lucky to keep in contact with a lot of my buddies throughout my little different careers I've had. So anything I need to reach out to, I can kind of ping people. And so my advice to people that are leaving law enforcement or leaving the military that want to do other things, one, believe in yourself that you can do it, because whoever you became in those communities, you can do the same thing in the civilian world. For some reason, the civilian world intimidates a lot of people who are veterans of law enforcement in the military. But one, it's the world we came from, so don't act like it's a foreign country. We spent the first 20 years of our life as civilians, and we act like, God, the civilian world's so weird, like we're on the moon.
Right.
It's not weird. Where we came from. And you can be just as successful, that same passion and drive that got you to be whatever you became in the military or as a cop. That same fuel will drive you in the civilian world. So a lot of my military buddies, I had to kind of call them out on that. Like, what are you so worried about? The civilian world it's our world. We're actually just visiting these other worlds. The moon is the law enforcement community in the military. That's the foreign place you go for 4 to 20 years or 30 years, and then you come back to planet Earth, which is the civilian world. So embrace it. It's our home. So don't be scared of it. and believe in yourself. A lot of my buddies, for some reason, their confidence was stripped from them when they left the uniform service. And it was very weird to see. I don't know if you guys have experienced that with some of your friends, but like, you're a Billy Badass. What are you intimidated about? This is easy in a way. You know, I mean, obviously there's specific challenges in the civilian world, but for the most part, nothing's blowing up. No one's shooting at you. You know, we got this. Nothing's on fire.
Yeah.
You know?
But, you know, Clark, I think here's the deal. The military, I believe, sets guys up for failure as far as being an entrepreneur. Because if you look at all these programs to get out, it's how to write a resume, how to do a job interview. And I went to the military's boots to business class, and I'm here to tell you, it stunk. I don't, you know, don't tell me to go to SBA and apply for a loan. You know, did we talk about social media? Nope. Because I walked out of the military thinking, man, I'm at like 85% solution. Okay. So I retire in June 2017. I think it was January 2018, go to SHOT Show, getting up with all my industry partners, and they're going, hey, what's your social media? I'm like,
Like what?
You know? Yeah, exactly. I'm building it. I don't know that, you know, I've seen that on websites. Sounds good. I'm under construction.
Sure.
I'm like, what's going on? So they don't set you up for the entrepreneurial side like they need to be. And that to me is the shame. So, and you bring up the good point is, hey, that Rolodex of guys that you know, reach out.
Absolutely.
You know, to go, hey, buddy, you're running your own business. Where do I start?
Yeah.
And I know that's something me and Mark have tried to do is just, hey, man, I tell everybody, regardless, because here's like a key note. So for all my mill guys, if you're still in, you cannot get certified through the VA to be a service-disabled, veteran-owned small business until you've been in business for 3 years. So if Uncle Sugar doesn't tell you that fact, you step out the gate, you're in essence, if you're looking for that accreditation, 3 years behind. So it's little things like that just people need to go, oh, I can run a business while I'm in. Of course you can apply for you can get your business set up and running, you know.
Sure.
And just get that time clock running and start, you know, like you said, part of it was when we're in, social was frowned upon. Didn't have it. Didn't want it.
Yeah,
now
exactly.
you know, now I still don't want it, but it's one of those where I go from social media to it's social marketing. That's what it is.
Yeah, that's what it really
100%.
is.
So,
it is. Yeah, absolutely. No, that's a good point too about the military. It's funny how the military spends all this time and money training you up for something, but on your way out, it's just kind of like, all right, there you go. I mean, they put something together, but if you compare it to a ramp up, it's nothing. I mean, it's like a 98% ramp up to a 2%. Okay, cool. See you later. And especially when it comes to something creative like being a business owner, they just kind of prepare you for, okay, go get a job at a cubicle or a factory, or they're not, like you said, training you to be creative and like, hey, you're going to have to use social media or computers and, you know, whatever modern businesses are now using, you know?
Well, trademark, logos, you know, if you have an idea, patents, all these different things that potentially your business could have, you know, manufacturing. Do I want to do it in the U.S.? Do I want to go overseas? Where do I go overseas? How do I get a loan? All the, you know, am I brick and mortar? Am I doing e-commerce? Oh, what e-commerce platforms are friendly to gun owners, you know, or firearm industry? You know, it's like all this stuff, but it's like, here's how to write a resume. I don't know that.
Yeah, they're way behind on that. But hopefully, if they're in good standing with their community and their brothers, you know, like we've said, if they reach out, but hopefully people listening or reach out to your brothers that are getting out and put some of these ideas in their heads. And, hey, have you ever thought of this? That's kind of what happened to me with Rogue American Apparel. You know, my buddy Wes hits me up and says, hey, I got this thing going on. You want to be a part of it? And I was interested right away because I can learn about business. And I've never really done anything like that. I've always just worn a uniform and done what I got to do or whatever. And so that's why I jumped on an opportunity. And I'm glad I did because you see the framework of it. And I really learned the ins and outs of social media and how important it is because it's free advertising, free marketing. It's a way to create a brand and spread it out there. Before that, way different ball game. So it's super important tool.
So here's one for you, Clark. Did you see the parallels between, if you want to say, the military and the business side?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just the basic structures of both are similar, and as far as how a company is structured, how your chain of command is structured. The biggest thing that I saw, especially coming from the community I did, was to be creative and be a problem solver, figuring out how to make things happen, as opposed to just hitting the dead end. I mean, even like in the military, trying to acquire certain things, you had to become very creative. It's the same thing in business. Like, hey, we need to get this done, but this is no longer an option. So those creative gears are spinning, and you know, military guys are very good at acquiring things or trading with the barter system or smoozing people. Hey, if you do this, I'll scratch your back. You know, communication aspect of it. You know, in the military, especially in special operations, you have to communicate very effectively, very clearly. And so in business is the same way. You know, if you're, whatever the purpose of this meeting or this phone call is, you have to be able to articulate yourself. So I think a lot of that, the communication, the structure, the confidence in yourself as well. I remember the first time giving a pilot's brief to a couple Marine officers when we were on deployment, and I'm an E5. I was like, fuck, you know, I don't know what to tell these dudes, but they told me right away, just wear a flight suit with a trident, no rank, and then call them by their rank. Don't call them sir. So you walk into this briefing room and you're like, hey, how you doing, Captain? I'm Clark from Foxtrot Platoon. And they were like, where's this dude's rank? Like, you don't know where he is.
What a good piece of advice.
It works in the business world too. You know, you just got to walk in the room sometimes and own it. You know?
Who's this guy? Yeah.
Yeah. You got that air about you. People just assume you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
You know, just obviously you need to be prepared as best you can. But the one thing that helped me was just being confident in your abilities and what you know and that sort of thing. So I think the military has definitely, at least in my experience, prepared me for that, because I was pushed out into these different roles. One of the things our chief made us do is on deployment every day, someone from the platoon had to teach a class on something. Mm-hmm. That was terrifying at first. I never like, what am I going to, especially as like a new guy, like, oh shit, what am I going to do? So the military will push you out of your comfort zones.
Yeah. So our platoon sergeant had us do that. We had a lot of downtime during Desert Storm, and we had to put together blocks of instructions. There was one every couple days, and he didn't care what it was, but Sergeant Patch did that for us. Yeah. It's a great idea.
Yeah. Well, it is, especially when you're new to that environment. It's very intimidating. You're still trying to absorb knowledge yourself, but obviously you become better when you teach other people things. You know, it's because you have to look at things differently and communicate it clearly. It's one thing to take information on board and be able to perform with it, but to be able to articulate it to people. That's what I was worried about when I was getting into firearms instruction, is I've had such a hodgepodge experience of different, especially contracting, you know, training with these different unit guys and whatever. I'm like, man, can I put all that? It makes sense in my head, but it's kind of like a Rubik's Cube. Am I going to be able to make it simple and effective to people? And luckily, when I started teaching people how to shoot at the academy for the rehab shooting, I was able to articulate it in a way that people really responded. So, but again, even that confidence came from the military pushing me out of my comfort zone and be able to speak to people or a group of people, or even on the street as a cop. When you're a rookie, it's kind of intimidating to go into a dynamic situation and try to set control and interview people. And again, had I not had that military experience, you know, a true rookie cop who was like a good Mormon kid growing up, and now he's thrown to the wolves in South Phoenix, I could see them on calls just like, shit.
Yeah, it's
Whereas
not easy.
I had that military stuff that would come out, you know?
It's not easy being a 21-year-old going into a domestic dispute where a guy's been married longer than he's been alive, and he's trying to solve
and some of the guys would call him out on that, like, what do you know?
Sure.
You're like 12, you know? I feel so bad for those kids. Like,
yeah.
It's tough. Yeah, what are you gonna preach to a husband and wife having a bad day when you're 21 single, you know? It's tough. So I'm glad I had other experiences and been through a couple divorces and deployments, and you know, I've been scuffed up enough that I could be like, listen guys, I understand. Everyone put their swords down, let's talk, you know.
Yeah. So how do we get a hold of you? Where do we find you? And you know, we'll put a bunch of links in our show notes, but what's the best place for everybody to see you and interact with your pages and see some of the content you put out? It's great stuff. It's one of my favorite pages. I'm always talking about it. So where can we find you at?
Oh, I appreciate it, man. You guys are awesome. The easiest way is just my Instagram account. I don't have any other social media. So it's just Frogman2155 on Instagram. My podcast is the Good Vibes podcast with Clark Impastato. You can send me an email. I like to get emails for ideas or questions. So I came up with thegoodvibesdude@gmail.com.
Oh, okay.
So if people, whatever, direct message on my Instagram account will work too. That's about it. Those are the only the two platforms I have. So it's pretty simple.
Well, I like the Urban Dictionary definition. Was that legit, or did you? No kidding.
A buddy at work sent
Go ahead
me that.
Go ahead and tell our listeners what we're talking about.
Yeah. Oh, I'll read it. Can you bring it up? So today at work, my buddy Pat sends me like a screenshot of this, and I thought, okay, he has an app where you can like kind of tweak memes or something. Like, okay, funny, buddy. And he goes, no, serious. Go to UrbanDictionary.com and look it up, and sure as shit, it pops up. So my last name, Impastato, pops up. It says the inability to close the deal, and then he gives a little example here. Man, I was perfectly set up last night. I was about to go home with a chick, but I pulled an Impastato and ended up back home rubbing one out by myself.
I love how they use it in a sentence.
Yeah.
That is
They had to
great.
give an example.
Oh,
and
man.
It comes out you can't score, so you got to go home and take care of business or something like.
Oh, man.
Somebody had to rig that up. Like whoever owns Urban Dictionary is an old teammate of mine and said, "Okay, I'm going to Clark over." There's no way it means that.
God, I hope that's true.
But it's legit. I didn't believe my buddy, so I went to UrbanDictionary.com, plugged it in, and it popped right up. So,
wow,
great last name. All right.
It is a great last name, and I tell you what, buddy, it's been a lot of fun following your page, and it's just great stuff. And I hope you keep it up. And thank you for your service. Rick and I really loved having you on, and I've been talking about you for a while. I was like, man, we got to get this guy on. He is a blast, and you have been. So we really appreciate it, buddy.
Oh, thank you. You guys are awesome. And, hey, thank you guys for being my inspiration, being go forward dudes. Now I'm a fan. I love it.
Dating ourselves a little bit there, but yeah, man.
Yeah. No, that's awesome, man. I followed right in behind you guys, man. Trying to do a good job for you. I appreciate it. And as soon as I can figure out the magic of whatever I'm trying to do, I would love to have you guys on my podcast, man.
That would be a blast.
Safety dudes on patrol. I got it.
All right, buddy. Really appreciate you having you on here, buddy.
I appreciate it. Take care, guys.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, pal.
Take care, Clark. Thanks, pal.
Yeah.